Welcome, guys. How you doing? Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic 90s nerds to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between. Today we're talking just random horror in terms of a random horror movie called Dolls, and I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. So today's chat will be a little bit casual, and sorry I look like a crazy mess. It's because I exercised just a little bit ago and I just did not have a chance to like really get ready nicely. Also, I am rather hangry today. Today is one of my boyfriend and I's diet days where we try to limit our calories, so I'm like hungry and mad and angry and hangry, whatever. So I'm just like, oh, I'm grumpy. How are you guys doing? While we wait for some people to join, let me know what you guys are reading and or watching right now. I am currently personally reading Pet Cemetery. So before we jump into the movie chat, let's just casually chat about whatever. Again, this will be kind of a casual all-around chat. We will talk about the movie Dolls from 1986, but we are going to just kind of casually talk about other things too, and it'll be kind of a short stream. So hopefully you guys are okay with that. And feel free, if you don't want to talk about what you're watching or reading, feel free to drop your comments about the movie itself, Dolls. You know, what did you think of it? Was it a rewatch for you? The whole reason I'm doing this stream is because you guys wanted to talk about the movie as like part of the book club. So that's kind of cool. Cameron's here! Ah! Cameron! Oh, I miss you. I hope you're doing okay. Somebody I know, maybe named Cameron, might have a surprise coming to him soon. We will see. I don't know. Only time will tell. It probably won't get there very soon, though, knowing the mail. But anyway, that's a story for another time. Melissa's here too. Melissa, hey, how you doing? Oh my gosh, she likes my earrings. Thank you. It's the Haunted Mask. It's a book. Isn't it cool? It's kind of hard to show you guys. I mean, this camera's not very good. I don't have my good camera set up, but here it is. And I really like these. These are from, oh my god, I put it right next to me in case someone asked about my earrings. Where the hell? Oh, here it is. Okay. I knew I had the name of my earrings. Spark and Spell on Etsy is the name of the store where I got these nice goosebump earrings if anyone is interested. So, I've been getting a lot of great earrings lately, so thank you, Melissa, for noticing. I really like kind of like pop culture earrings and like kind of it's kind of costume jewelry looking, but whatevs. All right, cool gamers also here. Hey, how you doing? I'm so glad you joined. Again, guys, we're just about to talk dolls in a few minutes, but I just want to kind of casually catch up with you guys. And you know, that's what lives I think are the best for is just kind of catching up with everybody. But yeah, of course we're going to talk about the thing that I said I was going to talk about when I made the stream. But I just want to see how you guys are doing, what you're doing in general in life in terms of reading and watching and just in general. So please drop whatever you want in the comments. As I was starting to say in the beginning, I'm reading Pet Cemetery, and it's so good. It's so good. So just a spoiler, I have to finish Pet Cemetery by Sunday because I'm doing another live stream with my good friend Kat. Check out her blog. Her blog is amazing. I'll have to go back and link her blog afterwards. But yes, she is incredible. She's really cool and sweet, and she's also a great blogger. So I got to say, a lot of people don't check out her blog that they should. They should check it out because she just deserves a lot more followers and stuff. And on there, she talks about our King Read. She talks about the other books she's reading, and she's just a great person to follow, in my opinion. Benjamin's here too. Oh my gosh, yay! Benjamin, I'm so happy to see you too. Pet Cemetery is one of Benjamin's favorite Stephen King books. I think it could be. I mean, this is kind of early. I'm only 117 pages in. And although it's like over 500 pages, I know I'm going to finish by Sunday. Actually, I have to really finish by Friday because I want to watch the movies. Because Kat and I are going to talk about the book, of course, but we're also going to talk about the two different movie adaptations. Of course, the 1989 version, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and also the newer adaptation. So I'm honestly just having a ball reading Pet Cemetery. And it's like, I thought I would be bored and I was a little worried because I know the movie so well over the years that when I went into the book, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be entertained, right? But the way King writes this story is so elegant. So that's why I'm really, really liking it quite a bit. It's just some of the sentences, especially about life and death, is just really elegant. I mean, nothing really overly scary has happened besides, if you know about the movie, the accident that happens where the kid gets, basically run over and stuff. Katrina's here too. Katrina, hey! Oh my gosh, thank you for joining. I saw you did sprints the other day and I missed it. I'm so sorry. I know you were doing sprints on somebody's channel. Oh, I wish I would have caught it. I'm so sorry. I found out too late. We were just talking about what we're reading and watching right now. So, Katrina, what are you reading right now? I was just in the middle of, speaking of what I was watching, I did a half assed exercise before I came to stream, and I say half-assed because it was supposed to be like an hour plus workout that was like weightlifting. I did my first 20 minutes on the elliptical, and then I was like, I really don't feel like doing this. I did one set of weights, and I was like, I'm really not into this today. So I'm procrastinating the real workout till tomorrow. But as I was doing the beginning stuff, I was watching your like catch up on what you were reading in May, but I didn't get very far in it. So I don't know exactly what you're reading right now. I just got into the very beginning of your video. I'm not reading this, but I just wanted to show you guys. Benjamin, who's here in the chat, told me that there was a deal on Bayou Blues, which is a Dawson's Creek suspense book, which I had no idea existed until literally just a few weeks ago. And I bought the other two, which have Joey, the character of Joey, played by Katie Holmes, on the cover. But this one I didn't buy because it was going for 60 bucks on thrift books and in general online. Benjamin messaged me and he was like, "You gotta see on Penguin Books, it's like $2." I was like, "What?" And yeah, so thank you so much, Benjamin. I got it in. I'm very excited. I'm sorry about the glare. It's my ring light. But yes, I am a sucker. It's one of my little guilty pleasures, and I always say that as a joke, but I'm not really very embarrassed by it, but it's not everyone who likes horror and like the stuff that I cover on my channel likes Dawson's Creek, but I flip and do. In fact, I very much related to the show back when I was a kid, so well, a teenager, I should say. But yes. Oh, Katrina just finished The Worm and His Kings by Haley Piper. That's awesome. I did read one book by Haley Piper. It was the one about possession. Forgot what that one's called. That one was good. It was a very short story, very, very short. And from what I remember, because I think I do own The Worm and His Kings, that one is short too. It's a little novella. Katrina says she still needs to finish Chain Letter for Kelly's book club. We're referencing Kelly at Kelly Hooked on Books. She has a wonderful book club. This is the old school version of Chain Letter. I did not read this copy. I actually got a Kindle version of Chain Letter and read it. But look how amazing. You guys know this is wonderful. The lighting is not ideal right now, so I am sorry. But yes, oh, so good. I will say, like most old school paperbacks, the insides do not match the cover. However, I did think this was a decent Ruby Jean Jensen. It is a little dragged out and long, but at least it's atmospheric and at least the ending was, sensible. Whereas some of the other Ruby Jean Jensen books where the endings were abrupt and rushed, and so that's why I think personally I like Chain Letter, even though it was a little long and a little drawn out. Mr. Morningstar is here too. Hi, how you doing? He says finished New Animal the other day, not horror, but heavy on grief and themes of death slash mortuary work. Ooh, that sounds intense, but also good. Oh, Melissa likes Dawson's Creek. I'm not the only one. Good. I'm glad. I know Benjamin likes Dawson's Creek too, but it's like a big love of mine. Like I always say, oh yeah, like my favorite show, Breaking Bad, or this or that. But like honestly, the show I may have watched the most in my entire life is Dawson's Creek. Like when I wanted to cry, I would put on a particular episode. I'd be like, it's cry time. Like it's ridiculous. I had an episode to cry. And my friend Juju back in college, we would both be like, "It's time to put on that episode." I don't know why we wanted to cry, but we would put it on, and then we would like sit back and cry. So ridiculous. Mr. Morningstar had a crush on Katie Holmes. I just wanted to be Katie Holmes. I just think she was so down to earth, like her character Joey was so down to earth in Dawson's Creek and really smart and I don't know, spunky and witty, and I just liked her so much. I loved her character very, very much. So yeah, I really looked up to Joey, and I felt like I was Joey sometimes because I was like in like a love triangle back in school, like in high school. I told Cameron that when we hung out that I was like in this like huge love triangle, and that's why I related so much to Dawson's Creek at the time. It's kind of absurd talking about it now, but it's very funny. Melissa, I can't say which episode, but a prominent character, something happens to a prominent character and it's bad, and it's like it kind of changes the show. Like something really bad happens to a character, like a pretty major character. I mean, not one of the young kids, but another major secondary character. That's the one. I know you know what I mean if you're a fan. I think you should be able to guess what I mean. I just don't want to say it for anyone who hasn't watched Dawson's Creek and doesn't want it to get spoiled. Katrina says the worm and his kings, not the king and his worms. That would be an interesting title, though. The king and his worms. The worm and his kings was a novella, like I thought, and it was awesome, Katrina says. She loved the cosmic horror vibes. I'm going to check that out one day for sure. I've heard great things about Haley Piper, and I did enjoy the one book I read by her. I do think the cover gave away a little too much, like from the book I read, the other book I read by Haley Piper, but that's not her fault at all. And I guess you wouldn't really know it would give away anything until you start reading the book, I suppose. I don't know, whatever. It was decent. The cover was cool in general. John Doe is here. Hey John, how you doing? All right, guys. I did recently do a vintage horror haul, so like I'm kind of like in the vintagey mood, which fits in perfectly with us talking about the movie Dolls today. Again, as I referenced in the beginning, this movie was released in 1986. The funny thing is, so the director of this movie, his name is Stuart Gordon. He directed Dolls, and he also directed From Beyond, and also Reanimator, of course. And the funny thing is, actually, Dolls was filmed first, but From Beyond was released before Dolls was because Dolls took so long to get done and completed in post production because of all the like the different dolls, all the different effects they had to do with the dolls. And so it just took a lot of time and effort with editing. And so I think it turned out really good. Like, okay, so we can talk about this movie on two levels here. We could talk about it on the cheesy level, but also on the really awesome effects level, because although the effects are cheesy in a way, like the blood looks super fake and stuff of that nature, I do think that the dolls look really great, especially if you're in like the 80s mindset and you're looking at it. Like if they try to do that movie today, I just don't think the CGI would be as good. Like I don't think CGI would look as good as what they did with dolls, with like practical effects and other types of methods. They did use like puppets, and they had a hard time hiding like strings and stuff with scenes of the dolls attacking people. They had to use like tricks of light, and they also actually had to draw on the camera with markers to hide some of these strings, which I find really cool that they did that. Very interesting. By the way, the director of Dolls, Stuart Gordon, just to mention him one more time, he also directed a movie called Dagon, which of course is based on an H.P. Lovecraft story. And since Katrina was just mentioning cosmic horror, H.P. Lovecraft crack. No, H.P. Lovecraft is like the king of cosmic horror. I think that's kind of cool. It all connects to what we're talking about today. So, by the way, guys, Dagon, the movie from 2001, directed by Stuart Gordon, like there's a scene in that movie that almost made me throw up. That looked really lifelike. Skin getting cut. I won't tell you where, but like prominent skin somewhere getting cut off, and it's like I was thinking to myself, like, oh my god, this is like the greatest looking, but also the worst looking in terms of I wanted to barf. Pardon my French. It's not even French, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. I was really freaked out by that scene in Dagon. And if you haven't seen Dagon, it would be a great summer horror because it's very rainy, very wet, and you just feel like, ugh. I don't know, it just feels kind of summery in a way in terms of like beachy, and although it's not like a nice looking beach or area at all, it's more of like a desolate area that's just rainy. I don't know why the rain reminds me of summer, but spring rain, summer rain, I guess it fits. Cameron says, love all of Stuart Gordon's stuff. Dolls is definitely his tamer and more heartfelt film, at least compared to his others. And that's true, Cameron. That's a great point. And actually, there are people who are fans of Stuart Gordon's work who actually didn't like Dolls at first. Like it wasn't as well received by his fans because they're like it's not the greatest. Like especially right afterwards, they were like, especially after seeing From Beyond, they're just like, it's too tame. Like we want something more. But I don't know. I really love it because there is some heartfelt stuff in it in terms of like the little girl and I just really like it. By the way, guys, so if you're just joining, we are going to talk spoilers here. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. I'm not going to get into spoilers yet, but we are going to at some point talk spoilers in the movie because this is a movie discussion, kind of like a book club discussion, but a movie club discussion type of deal. Same idea. All right, we've got Becky England in the chat. Hey, Becky, how you doing? I appreciate you being here and watching. Katrina said, I just rewatched it and the dolls did look good. Katrina, you're someone who I really want to ask because I loved your, and I don't think I commented on it, but I loved your thematic dolls reading vlog where you read all kinds of doll stuff. What are some of your favorite doll horror things? Like whether it's a book or a movie, can you shout out some awesome thematic doll type of horror for us? Because I feel like you're like a semi-expert just from watching that vlog. I really liked that. And you were like, I'm trying to find new doll movies that I haven't seen, but I've seen them all. And I was like, wow, she's watched a lot of doll horror if she's seen them all. Of course, when I think about doll horror, is it here? Where is it? I haven't showed this in a haul yet because I've got books from last year where I still haven't hauled. So there will be a new haul eventually, but it'll be old books. So hopefully you guys don't mind. But to spoil that, so the queen of at least dolls on vintage horror covers would be Ruby Jean Jensen. Here's a really awesome Ruby Jean Jensen book that I was happy to snag that I never hauled and showed you guys ever on my YouTube channel. But here is Victoria. The only thing I'm really upset about is this tear here. There was like a sticker there. I mean, I think it came like that. I don't think I did that. I would have used means to get a sticker off like Goo Gone or Bestine, which is what I use, or a blow dryer, or a combination. But yes, awesome creepy dolls, and Ruby Jean Jensen has other creepy doll covers on her older books as well, not just this one. But yeah, I was so happy to find this, and this was published in 1990. I do agree with Katrina. I do think the dolls looked really cool in the movie Dolls. We're going to be saying the word dolls a lot, so I am sorry if I'm going to repeat that same word over and over and over again. Katrina says May is one of her favorite doll movies. I have not seen May, but I'm going to highlight this comment so people can see and make a note of this if they have not seen it. I guess I should add that to my Halloween horror movie list. So there are many times in the year where I do these big watch-a-thons. And actually, the first time I ever saw Dolls was way back in October, probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where I was compiling just random movies I wanted to watch that were just random horror movies. Dolls was one of them, and I put it on. I definitely watched it during October because for a long time I used to concentrate my horror movie watching only in October. I know that sounds crazy to you guys who are like hardcore horror fans, and I do consider myself a hardcore horror fan as well. However, for years, I just kept watching the same movies because I would always want to watch my favorites in October. And then so time would run out. I wouldn't, be able to watch new horror movies or like other horror movies that I had missed out on. They might be old, but I just hadn't seen them. And for a while, I thought that keeping horror movie watching in October was a way to make Halloween extra special for me, like an extra thematic. However, like the last couple of years, I've extended it all year long. And I'm so glad because I'm a way better horror fan now than I ever would have been had I just kept limiting myself to October horror movie watching. But it was fun. I gotta say, I would look forward to October so hardcore. I mean, I still do, but even more hardcore than ever before when I did that. It's still awesome now. I mean, who doesn't love Halloween? I mean, it's a great time no matter what. Becky says Dolly Dearest is good, a good doll horror. Awesome. I will have to check these out. So again, I always try to compile my little horror movie marathon list like months in advance. Like I've got some ideas for this Halloween. And as you guys know, if you're longtime viewers of my channel, or even, kind of recent new people to my channel, I just recently announced a big watchathon and readathon for June, which will all be slasher themed. So I just discovered a whole bunch of slashers that I had not seen as of, last year. And I finally watched some, more obscure ones, not just the popular ones that I had seen many times. So I feel like I've got like a good group of horror movies that are slashers that I could suggest to people that weren't like your popular ones, like, Halloween and those standard ones that are great, but that everyone already knows about. Jonathan is here. Hi, Jonathan. How you doing? Katrina also says Dead Silence was a good movie as well. Ooh, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch this stream and just take notes about potential stuff to put on my list. So I knew that you would know some good stuff, Katrina. I just knew it. So yeah, in terms of doll horror, in terms of books, I haven't read too many of those either. I do have. This is a newer book. I wonder if any of you guys have read this yet. Creepy Doll on the Cover, The Toy Maker by Sergio Gomez. I've had this for like, I don't know, a year and a half, at least a year. I don't know when it was published. It's relatively new. Where the hell? I can't find it for some reason. Well, anyway, I just got this. Not just got this. I just got this about a year and a half ago, and I've been wanting to read it, but I mean, it's a chunker though. So, has anyone read it? But this is another kind of horror book with a doll on the cover. So I think dolls are just kind of ripe for being scary, because when you really look in a room with a whole bunch of dolls just standing there, there's something that you can't quite put your finger on that makes you feel uneasy when you're in the room with these dolls. It's like you think they're going to come alive. Another book, and it's a notorious vintage horror book about toys, but a lot of other things too. Toy Cemetery by William W. Johnstone. I did read that last year, and it was batshit crazy and ridiculous. And there's some things that didn't match up in terms of like the story and like the plot. There were some holes, but it didn't matter because it was the adventure, and it was the absurdity along the way that made it like a fun time type of deal. But yeah, the writing wasn't necessarily good, but it was still fun, and that had toys in it. But my big criticism of that is I wanted more toys and more things going on and more horror with the toys. And so some things you read or watch having to do with evil toys or toys, it's not involved too heavily in the plot, and I wish it would be more. Cameron and I just read a Are You for the Dark book in April. We both read it. That was about toys, and of course, why am I forgetting the name, Cameron? I know you will remember it, but I am forgetting it for some reason. We just read it, so we both read it as like a buddy read type of deal, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good Are You for the Dark book. And for those of you who didn't know, yes, Are You for the Dark, it was a show on Nickelodeon, but they also had a series of books. They're not very popular. They're not Goosebumps level in terms of quality, but they're still fun, especially if you pick out a good one. Not all of them are good. Katrina has a suggestion for a great doll book. She says Dolly by Susan Hill is a great doll book. Ooh, my TBR and what I like to call my TBW, which is to be watch list. It's growing, all due to Katrina, and I mean that in the best way. Cameron says, I've read The Toy Maker and really liked it, but it's long. Yeah, I mean, it looks long. And I get intimidated by long books. So, leave it to me to think it's a good idea that not next month, I'm sorry, the month after next in July, I'm doing coming of age horror books. I'm doing a whole little mini theme. And as you guys may know, if you're book fans, coming of age horror for some reason tends to be long. Like all of it. Long. I'm going to read it. And I'm going to read Boy's Life by Robert McCannon. And I'm going to read Toady by Mark Morris with my friend Alex. And that is long. So I'm like, what am I thinking? Reading all these long books when I get intimidated by long books. But I'm going to do it. Trying to flex. But as you guys know, if you were here from the very beginning, I did not weightlift today. So my arms are not very well defined in general because I'm a slacker. Midnight Crypt Wars is here. Hey, how you doing? So glad you're here. We're talking dolls, but we're also just talking doll horror. So not only are we talking about the movie Dolls from 1986, we're just talking about great doll movies or toy movies or great doll horror books or evil toy books. Right now, that's kind of what we're doing in the chat as of now. I just think it's fun to add things to the watch list. The Twisted Ones has an amazing doll scene. Ooh, that's good. I'm gonna write that one down too. There's just something about their dead eyes and the doll, like any doll in general. But as a kid, for some reason, most kids don't have a problem with dolls. It's only when we start to grow up and look at these dolls that we get creeped out. And I think that's kind of odd that, like, as a kid, we're just accepting it, like, yeah, it's no big deal. This doll is like got this death stare where it just got these dead eyes staring at us. But as we grow up, we're just like, nah, I don't like these things anymore. I don't want them in the same room as me. Midnight Crypt Works says, "Nice, I've seen it before, but I just saw Puppet Master again yesterday." Hey, that's kind of within the theme of what we're talking about, so that works. But yeah, I had just rewatched Dolls in April, this past April, for my old school April readathon and watchathon. It was part of like my little watch list that I put together of old school things. The first time I ever saw it, as I referenced a few minutes ago, was a few years ago. It was great to revisit it, and I did take notes, and one of the things that jumps out at me right away about the movie Dolls is the opening credits, because the opening credits, you get like these doll heads and they're extra creepy. There's nothing, animated about them in terms of they don't do anything. They're just heads next to people's names as the movie opens, but it just is so effective and eerie, and I really, really like it. And so the opening credits are like perfect. Right away, you're kind of knowing what you're getting into. It's kind of like a cheesy type of opening credits, but well done at the same time. So I think it's got a lot of elements that work really well right in the beginning of the movie. Yeah, Midnight Crypt Works says, yes, the doll heads. Yes, I love that. Another doll themed horror book. The House of Small Shadows by Adam Neville is long, but I enjoyed it. It seems like Adam Neville books are long in general. Isn't that true? Because like every book I look up by him, I think seems long, unless I'm mistaken. I don't know why. Just maybe that could be my perception and it's off or something. Sorry. Gotta refuel. All right, so let's go on about. By the way, oh my god, talk about the worst parents ever in a movie. I have been wanting to do this top 5 or top 10 countdown list about worst parents in like old school movies, but most of the parents I had picked out were from like family movies. So this would spoil my list a little bit, but which one did I pick out? The parents from Blank Check, if you guys have ever seen them. Now, this is not a horror movie. Blank Check is an old school 90s movie, so I'm sorry for all you horror fans that don't like kiddie movies from the 90s, but I am a 90s kid, so I loved Blank Check back in the day. But oh my god, the parents would definitely be on my list of, I call it a top list, but it would actually be a worst list, a list of the worst movie parents ever, because they just are so mean to the main character in Blank Check. But the main character, Preston, in Blank Check, he's a little bitchy. I mean, he's a little like whiny and a little bratty. I mean, he's a little ungrateful about some things. However, I do understand him feeling like kind of I don't know. I guess not left out, but almost treated unfairly by his parents compared to his siblings. He had two brothers. All right, so yes, that would definitely be on the list, and I think these parents in Dolls would totally be on the list. Now, of course, one is a stepmom, and the other is like the little girl's dad, but they are both terrible, and they're literally like bashing the little girl the entire movie. And one of the greatest scenes, already pretty early on in the movie, is when the little girl's teddy bear, she's holding it or whatever, the car breaks down, and the whole family has to get out the car. They're walking, she's kind of lagging behind, and the flippin' stepmom throws the flippin' bear into the woods. Like, what are you doing and why? There was no reason for her to do that at all. It was horrible. Totally unnecessary. Worst freaking one of the worst step parents ever on film. I would definitely put this on the list for bad parents. I just hated her so much, which made it all the more sweet. And this is a spoiler, so I'm gonna count to 5, and then we will go on with the spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, or you don't want to be reminded of the scene in terms of you want to rewatch it and you don't want, to get it recapped for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I feel like I'm doing ASMR. 5. Okay, so we will talk spoilers now. So when the stepmom gets it, it's extra great. By the way she gets it, is totally ridiculous. Like she's getting cut up by all the dolls, and then she like flies over them into the window. She's like, "Whoa!" She would have never been able to leap over all those toys the way she leapt over them and through the window. By the way, I did see on IMDb some kind of trivia that um I think you could see a crack in the window before she even goes through it. So that's kind of one of the little mistakes or little things people catch in the movie. Katrina agrees those parents were the worst. Hell yeah, they were the worst. They really were. Midnight Crypt Work says, grew up on blank check. I think you and me are around the same age. Yeah, I'm 33, born in 1989. So if you're around that age, then yes. Or if you were born around that year, I should say yes. I cannot talk today. Again, guys, please forgive me. Every live stream, I feel like I have a big excuse of why I cannot speak, but it's true. It's the hangry thing. I'm telling you. I'm wanting real food today, and all I have is diet food, and I'm sad. I want candy and beer and all kinds of goodies, and I can't have it. It's a personal decision. It's not like I can't. I'm choosing not to. So yes, Midnight Crypt is around the same age as me, not just a little bit older. Ashley's here. Ashley, hey. She says she loved the movie Dolls. Glad it was one of my picks for like one of the group watches we did for my book club. I say book club, but it's like if we're gonna start watching movies every now and discussing them, it's like, is it gonna be a book movie club? Like, I can't just keep calling it a book club if we talk about movies too. So I don't know. Just a club. But it's called the Midnight Book Society. So it's like, do I need a second name for this club now? I don't know. Anyway, I do think the way the stepmom gets it is just hilarious. It made me laugh when I rewatched that scene and she just jumps through the window, and I'm like, oh, 80s cheese to the max in the best way, not in a, in a insulting way. I love 80s cheese. And this is funny, and it's kind of a good examination of how people feel differently about things and how different things appeal to different people. My friend Kat, who I mentioned earlier in this chat, she does a lot of content with me on my channel. We're doing this whole Year of King thing where we read a King book or short story every month of the year. We watch the adaptation or adaptations if there are more than one, and we talk about it. And she also watches a lot of movies with me that are not King related. She watches stuff like, I'm losing my train of thought because of stupid people in the chat. I'm so sorry. But she doesn't like cheesy stuff. She kind of likes, like, let me give you an example. So Dolls, I'm not sure she would like 100%. I think she would kind of think the acting is weird, and I don't think she would appreciate the cheese. And we've had this conversation off and on when we've had our little movie marathon chats. For instance, we watched Sleepaway Camp. I freaking loved it. She also liked it, and she liked the story. But what she didn't like was like the corniness. Like, there are some corny scenes, I will admit, but I like it. I mean, it doesn't bother me. But Kat, she kind of likes the like finer acting or finer tuned acting. She doesn't really go for older horror movies like from the 70s. I find that when we watch the 70s horror movie as a part of our marathon, she never really likes it as much as me, if that makes sense. So there you can see the differences right there. So some people might love Dolls, like me. Although, take away the cheesiness, I still think the story is entertaining. But I think the cheesiness, it knew what it wanted to be. It knew what kind of movie it wanted. So I thought that was really cool that it like embraced what it was. It wasn't trying to be something fancy, smancy, whatever. Fancy, smancy. That's like it's gonna be my little catchphrase for the day. Thank you guys for reporting all the bots. I tried to block them right away, but sometimes I don't get there fast enough. I appreciate you guys. I don't know why they're popping up. It's probably because I didn't go into my YouTube and say block inappropriate comments like I should have. A lot of times you'll create the link and you have to go in and do more stuff on the YouTube end, not just on StreamYard, and I don't think I did that. So thank you guys so much for helping me. I hate when that happens. You guys are the best for helping, and I'm very sorry. No one wants those comments. What are y'all doing here? They're like, oh, y'all are talking about, like, not celestial. You're talking about salacious, like, 80s stuff. Ooh, wink, wink. We're in here to try to seduce you into other stuff that's seedy. Whatevs. I don't think 80s movies are, like corrupting or anything, so whatevs. But I could see how some people who don't like horror are like, "Oh, no." I have always grown up with horror, so it doesn't really bother me, like, the genre in general. Do you guys know anybody who doesn't like horror, and, have they told you why? Like, does it freak them out? Does it make them uncomfortable? Or they just don't like being scared? Or is it, like, another element? Because obviously a lot of times horror has, like, nudity and sex, but it also, and I think this is a great thing about horror, though, it, like, helps us to confront things that we're afraid of. Even, like, really outrageous types of storylines, like dolls, or like Friday the 13th or something, like a masked man that won't die type of deal coming after flippin' teenagers who are having sex. I feel like there's like a social commentary undercurrent under that they're trying to impart some kind of meaning, but it also is just a way for us to examine how we feel about certain things and why. And it's not even conscious. That's the genius part about horror. It's like it's all kind of like woven in, and then we like absorb it and kind of subconsciously think about it and analyze it ourselves. I don't know. It's all just so fascinating. So that's why, one reason why, not the main reason why I love horror. I just think it's such a great genre. And it sucks that a lot of people don't give it its due props and they kind of look down upon it and think it's like trashy and seedy. When the real seediness are those type of bots, not like horror movies. I think there's a lot of pros that you can garner from horror movies, and a lot of important things you could gain from them if you really looked closely. Daisy is here. Hey, Daisy. I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your support. You're awesome. By the way, Ashley, I got your package today. I did not open it yet, though. I was going to unbox it at a point and film myself unboxing it. So I've just been working all day and stuff. But thank you so much for sending it. It did arrive safely today. I just have not opened it. So that's why I didn't message you yet. I have to do a vlog, guys, to where I can unbox some things, but I'm going to be doing slasher vlogs. So speaking of horror movies, so everything I watch in June for my readathon and watchathon, so anything I watch, anything I read, I'm going to try to document in some vlogs, and it's going to be all slasher themed. And I want to find some kind of cool dessert to make that would be thematic with slashers. Last year, I actually did make a thematic dessert for Kat and I's big slasher marathon, which we did have last summer as well. It wasn't like an official thing, but we just did it amongst ourselves. And I made this, it was like a red velvet pudding cake. So the red, of course, I wanted because I wanted it to look kind of bloody. And so it was more like, it's not like a cake consistency, it's like a pudding consistency or something. I'm trying to compare it to something that you guys would understand the consistency. But anyway, I think I put like with little chocolate chips, I wrote out kill or something like stupid on the top. So it was very ridiculous. So yes, I made something thematic last year. I've got to find something just as good this year. If I'm going to do some vlogs for slasher, my readathon and watchathon, I want to do something thematic for like either cooking or mixing a drink or something. So if anyone can come up with something cool, if you know of any cool recipes, there are some fancy cookbooks that have Halloweenish and horror heavy type of recipes, but I feel like those are really like you have to be good at making things look really nice and kind of almost like chef like to make some of those type of recipes look good. So I'm not like at that kind of expert level of cooking, but I can do minor stuff like regular baking. I just can't make it look super fancy with like piping bags and like I can't do that. But I think it's gonna be fun no matter what to document what I make for slasher month and what I watch and read. All right, guys. I mean, I don't have too much to say. Let's look at the, except that I love the movie Dolls. What would you guys give the movie in terms of a rating on IMDb? Just so you guys get an idea of what most people think of this movie. A lot of people gave it a decent rating, but the average is semi-low. It's 6.3 out of 10 as a whole, and I don't think that's too high. It's just above 5 out of 10, so it's not that far from 5. I'm sure on Google, in terms of, let's look at the Google users. Or if you can hear me typing through the mic. All right, let's see what you say, Google. Give it a second. All right, so 60% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and this is always the case with horror movies, but also, as I was referencing early with like old school family movies like Blank Check, they're usually rated pretty low, but the Google users, that rating is usually higher. which means that people, like normal people like you guys and me, we like it more than, of course, the critics. And that makes sense because horror movies are really not made for critics. Kids' movies are really not made for critics either. They're not Oscar type of movies, but there's definitely an audience out there for these movies, and that audience includes me and you guys too. So 84% of Google users liked the movie Dolls. So relatively high. And that's pretty standard, 84, 90, 95 for horror movies in terms of Google user ratings. Melissa says she would give Dolls a 4 out of 5 or an 8 out of 10. Midnight Crypt Works also says 8 out of 10 or a 4 out of 5. Same idea. So you guys are on the same page there. Ashley says a 9 out of 10. It's hard to rate it because, like, what do you take away for? Like, I'm almost saying it's almost like a 5 out of 5. Like, you could put this on any time and it's campy fun and it's got a lot of silly gore. Like, it's not the type of gore that makes you sick, where you're seeing somebody get cut up and it like grosses you out and you can't watch it and you have to cover your eyes. This is the type of gore that is like, oh my god, yeah, like you could watch it as a part of a party or something. So to me, it's almost like a perfect group film where you could have some friends over and watch it. In fact, the first time I ever watched it was with my friend Burke, way long ago in an October, many years ago. He definitely came over and we watched it and totally enjoyed it and had a ball laughing together. And so I think that's a great way to watch it. I don't know. If I don't give it a 5 out of 5, it would be very close, like a 4.5 out of 5. Because I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. I can't really think of too many downsides to it. I mean, it knows what it is. It's not like it's trying to be something it's not, as I said earlier. I think the acting is what it's supposed to be. So it doesn't, I really like it. Katrina would give it an 8 as well. That seems to be a very common consensus here in the chat. This is a great statement. Midnight Crypt Work says, I miss all the great special effects they had back then. I do too, because I feel like CGI, I think, takes away in horror for me. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Let's talk about this a little bit. Do you guys like horror effects now? Are there some instances where you do really like it, but others where you don't? Can you think of a good example of a great effect in horror nowadays? And can you think of a great effect from horror back then that there's no way it can be replicated? Like, I am amazed. And I just did this marathon last year. Yeah, last summer. So last summer, not only did I have a slasher marathon with my friend Kat, I also had a shark themed marathon with my friend Nathaniel Toll, who's an author. He wrote a book called Pumpkin Cinema, which is all about the best movies to watch around Halloween time. A lot of the movies are very popular, well-known movies that you guys probably already have heard of, but the greatest part of the book, and my favorite part of his book, is the back, where he lists a whole bunch of television episodes and specials that are like Halloween specials and specific Halloween episodes. So I love that book, especially because of that. And also, even though I heard of a lot of the films in the book, I like to see Nathan's summary and the reason why he thought it was warranted to be included in the book. So anyway, my friend Nathan, check out his book, Pumpkin Cinema. His name is Nathaniel Toll. That's his full name. That's the name the book is under. But yeah, it's a great book. But we watch shark movies, and it just amazes me how modern shark movies look so much worse than a movie made back in the 70s, aka Jaws, which is literally the best. You can't even argue this fact. It is the best shark movie of all time. The shark looks great. The funny thing is, it's a mechanical shark. It didn't work all the time while they were filming, and you barely even saw the shark, so it's not like it was featured very prominently, but there was something about not seeing it that made the horror effective, but when you did see it, it didn't look fake. It looked good, and I don't know why that is. And today, with all of our technology, if you look at current shark movies, they are terrible. Like, what is the movie Nathan and I watched that? It was a new shark movie that just came out last year. We were super excited about it, and it was terrible. The effects were terrible. The acting was terrible. It was a terrible movie. And by the way, we did do a whole chat up on my YouTube channel about this shark marathon where we discussed these shark movies. So I will have to link that for you guys after I stop streaming, if I can remember. I sometimes forget to go back, but let me look at my Letterboxd real quick and pull up this movie I'm talking about. Katrina says, I don't think CG ages well. Totally agree. CGI doesn't do it for me either unless it's really good. But with that being said, I've seen CGI be extremely well done. Exactly, there are instances where it is well done. I'm trying to think of a great example, but I'm trying to think of something great. I just prefer kind of like, practical effects. That's just me personally. Like Jurassic Park. Here's another example. The first Jurassic Park's so good. Like it's a mix of things. Like it's not all practical, but it's like there's enough practical in there where things feel solid. Things have texture, if that makes sense to you guys. Sometimes with CGI, what I think is lacking is texture. It just seems so artificial, and there's just something where it just seems like you can't touch whatever is being portrayed or created in CGI. So that's just my opinion, though. So if you guys disagree, that's more than okay. I love talking about different opinions, and that's always welcome here. And I think it's great to discuss different viewpoints and talk about why we feel a certain way. All right, so I'm on the hunt. The reason I'm looking down, so please excuse me for 2 seconds. By the way, there is a movie I want to see that's probably trashy and corny, and no pun intended, but it's called Sharks of the Corn. I want to see that so bad. It sounds like a lot of fun. I think it's a real movie. Kat told me about it last year, and I don't even know like anything about it except for the name, and it's on my letterbox. But I would love to see that. Speaking of sharks, since we're talking about that, I'm sure that has CGI. That's fine. I'm sure it's going to be ridiculous, and I'm okay with that too. Another shark movie that has CGI but knows what it was, like it was supposed to be a comic book come to life. Santa Jaws. It was bad effects, but it was like meant to be. So I kind of liked it. I embraced that one in particular. Katrina says the effects were great in this, like when the soldiers shot one of the girls. It looks so good. I know. So like the scene that Katrina's referring to is when all these little toy soldiers and they look so cute, their little smiling faces. They're like, "Hey, we're here like to hang out with you." Then they're like, "No, bitch!" And then they shoot her, and it's in slow mo, and she's like, "Bleh." Anyway, even when her face was cracked open and it was like a doll's face, oh, that was good too. So yeah, I really like some of the practical effects in this movie personally. Cameron says this film is trashy good fun, but also really technically sound film. And that's true. It is a technically sound film. I think there's like some great stuff in here. The effects are brilliant and the cinematography is gorgeous. So much atmosphere. Totally agree, Cameron. 100% agree. Leave it to Cameron to have like the most elegant analysis. Because, as we've said in past chats, he's an author, bitch. Ugh. Sorry. More stuff in the comments, guys. I'm so sorry. Deep Blue Sea scared me to death. Sharknado movies. I haven't seen the Sharknado movies. All right. I'm so sorry. I've been keep getting distracted with like interacting with what we're saying besides looking for. So I think it was called. Was this it? Great White. Is that the Australian one? Yes, 2021. So Great White, directed by Martin Wilson, released in 2021. And yes, that is not a good film. Both Nathaniel Toll and I agreed. And Nathan gave it a 2.5 star rating. I can't even remember if I gave it a rating. In fact, on Letterboxd, I did not give it an official rating. But you think of a movie released in 2021, shouldn't that look just as good as Jaws released in 1970, I think 78, 79? Am I wrong on the date on Jaws? Which would be very sad if I can't even get the release date of one of my favorite movies correct. But we also watched Jaws 2. We watched Jaws the Revenge, which I will say that I liked. And my dad was like, I can't believe you like that movie because it's notoriously really like shit on like a lot by people. Jaws 2. I mean, not Jaws 2, Jaws the Revenge. I liked it though, honestly, a little bit. I mean, it's cheesy, it's terrible, but it's a lot of fun. Jaws the Revenge, by the way, the shark, I think, travels to the Bahamas, which is insane. Cage Dive, we also, no, Cage Dive 3, I should say. We also watched that. I think that one was terrible. But for some reason, shark movies seem to have the worst CGI. It's probably because they have to have like a figure flipping floating around in an ocean. And so you got two elements there, and it's like it's got to be mixed together, and it must not be easy to accomplish because I'm not trying to bash the artists who create these effects because I know it's time consuming and I know it's it takes skill. It's not something that I could just go and do, and so I'm not bashing like artists who do that because I actually know people who like have worked as part of teams on that, but it's just it's really not my thing though. I just prefer practical effects. Sorry guys, I am getting distracted. There are a lot of weird things in the chat. I am so sorry, guys. Guys, let's just stop talking about each other in the chat. I don't want to have to block any like real people. So besides bots, yes, but like let's just cool it in the chat right now with talking about each other, please. If you've got any concerns, message me privately, anybody in the chat. But let's stop like talking about each other in the chat right now. And thank you, Cameron. All right, guys. Trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody calling out any cool special effects. I do think that part of it is my fault for not like blocking like the inappropriate comments by going into the flippin' YouTube settings. So I'm so sorry, guys. I think the bots are like my fault for like not going and making sure I had that set before we started, because it hasn't been a problem in the last 2 or 3 times, which I have made sure to do that. Hey internet, Eric here says nothing beats practical effects, even if CGI is cheaper. I totally agree with you. I mean, there are instances of good CGI, but it's like, on the whole, no. Uh, at least in my opinion. Again, my opinion's not the end all be all. If you guys disagree, I'm totally cool with that, and I think I respect that, of course. Um, I think the couple, not only are they bad parents, the two kind of set of main characters, the parents of the little girl, the stepmom and the dad, they're not only bad parents, but they're a terrible, gross couple. Like they're way over the top, perfect for an 80s film. I just love it. By the way, speaking of creepy dolls, so the little girl is given this doll by the doll makers that they're staying in the house with. Everything's going wrong. I just dropped something. Mr. Punch, or Paunch. Mr. Punch is his name, and who would want to play with him? Who would want to play with this clown doll? She's like, oh, I love him. Like, no, get away from Mr. Punch. And I love the way she says punch. She's like, Mr. Punch. I don't know. It's very cute, very adorable. But I was like, ugh, I would not want to play with that doll if I was a kid. But she seemed into it, and it was like her little protector. And obviously, we know from having watched the movie that he is alive and does end up protecting her from people like her freaking dad, who is freaking more evil than the dolls themselves. Which I think is a fun part of the movie too, is that the people, you're happy to see them get killed. That's one of the things that I kind of like about this film. It's not like you're worried about these people. I feel like that's something slashers do sometimes really well, is that sometimes you don't care about certain characters getting killed, so you could just be on the ride as they get killed in creative ways. Whereas other characters, of course, you're rooting for them, you're wanting them to make it, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. I feel like that's kind of cool that there's a yin and yang there. But slasher movies do that really well, to where you're like, yeah, I get it. And Dolls did that too with the dad and the stepmom, and also those freaking rude girls. What did you think about those two, obviously Madonna inspired girls who stayed in the house? With the family, I think they were so rude, so rude. Who would play their music that loud? Who would try to steal from a sweet old lady and old man who are giving them shelter from the rain? So anyway, they deserved what they got, especially the girl getting shot in slow mo. And when you see her getting shot, you're like, yes, go. And also when you see the girl kind of lying dead and she's got like the doll, like half doll face, oh, that's so satisfying because you didn't like her anyway. So that's what I like. Cameron agrees with me and says, Punch is so freaky. All the dolls are terrifying. Also, when are we going to talk about that freaky eyeball scene? I know. The eyeball scene is so creepy. But also, another creepy thing about the movie is what's underneath the doll, like shells, like the weird creatures that are actually the dolls, like the little elves, as the little girl says. I think that's a really well done part of the movie too, that it's not just these random dolls, it's like these creatures too, is part of the element of it. I'm looking something else up on Letterboxd real quick. 2 seconds. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I was looking at the right movie. So Katrina asked me, "Have you seen the zombie movie directed by Fulci?" I don't know if I'm saying that right because I'm terrible at pronouncing things, especially Italian things and French things and freaking any foreign things. I'm just bad at. But yes, I have actually just seen that movie, Katrina. It has great but questionable shark scene. Yes, oh my god. So that shark scene, I am like floored. Katrina, how did they do that? I have to research about it. And I think another movie stole that scene. I think used clips from that scene for something else. Anyway, one of the movies, it might have been one of the movies me and Nathan watched that stole a scene from there. I know one of the movies me and Nathan watched for our shark marathon did steal like scenes from Jaws, like totally ripped off from Jaws, and that movie was terrible but so much fun, and the CGI was bad too, but it was just a great time. What's that one called? Oh yeah, the Last Shark. So good. So good. That's also directed by an Italian guy, and they got like sued, and the movie wasn't available for a while because they ripped off Jaws so much. And I thought it was that movie that, or maybe me and Nathan just wanted to watch the zombie movie for the shark scene. I can't remember, but we talked about the shark and the scene you're referring to, Katrina, but I don't know if we watched it. However, I did just recently, like literally like a week ago, watch Zombie with that scene, and I don't want to ruin it for you guys if you haven't seen it. By the way, this isn't ruining the movie Zombie if you haven't seen it, but the scene Katrina's talking about with the shark, before the shark comes into play, this lady's just like literally in like this tiny ass thong, no shirt on, like essentially almost naked. She's putting on her scuba gear. I cannot talk. She's putting on her scuba gear, and these people in the boat are just staring at her. And she's like, not even noticing that they're staring right at her, and it's all very silent and awkward. And it's like, this is so shoehorned in just to have some nudity. It was ridiculous. I was like, what is this doing here? She's literally unaware that these people are literally right across from her. She's completely almost naked, and she's put on her stuff, and they're just like, oh, like staring right at her. It's all very awkward, but funny. And then the scene that follows with the shark is even funnier and better. But I was blown away. Oh my god, Katrina says they drugged the shark so it was a real shark? I was about to say there was no way it could have been a fake shark, because if you guys have not seen what we're referring to, Katrina is talking about the movie Zombie, directed by, his last name is Fulci, and the scene is crazy. And I'm like, oh my god, animals had to have been harmed during this because it didn't look like a fake shark at all, like at all. So no wonder they drugged it, because there was literally like a person interacting with the shark, like close up, like all up on the shark, and I was like, how did they do this? But yes, it's such a good scene to reference, Katrina. I was blown away by when I watched it, and I just couldn't fathom how they actually got that accomplished in terms of getting it on film. Katrina says, I was cheering for the dolls. Me too, except when it came to Ralph. So, of course, Ralph is our great, awesome, like protagonist character, the one character besides the little girl that we want to root for. And I just thought he was a sweetheart. I was glad to see him kind of. This is a spoiler as well. I was glad to see him make it through, and I love the end. So I'm a big fan. I don't know if you guys like this, and we've talked about this in previous streams, but in case you guys weren't with me then, I love old school horror books and movies that kind of have bleak endings. I'm a fan of bleak endings. I don't mind them at all. I know my friend Alex the Bookubus, check out her channel. She feels a similar way as me in terms of she doesn't mind bleak endings. She kind of likes them because sometimes they make you feel and sometimes they make you think, and sometimes both. And so I don't know, bleak endings are a lot of fun. I mean, not literally, they are kind of heart wrenching, but and sometimes upsetting. But in terms of dolls, obviously, yes, we had somewhat of a good ending with Ralph and the little girl getting to leave and escape. And Ralph is seriously freaked out and he just wants to get the hell out of there as soon as possible. And we do get a hint at a happy ending because, you know, the little girl is like, oh, are you single? Like, you know, kind of trying to lay the foundation for Ralph dating her mom. And I think that's cute. I'm like, oh, okay, that's sweet. But I do like how you see another couple at the very end of the credits get stuck in the same exact place as the other family got stuck. And so you can assume that we're going to get the same situation happening again. And some more people are going to be freaking killed by dolls and or turned into dolls. So I love that ending. I just think it's genius. It's the perfect way to end it. You get a little bit of happiness, but a little bit of, oh my God, kind of bleakness. David Peterson says, and again, this is in reference to just a few minutes ago, us talking about the movie Zombie. There's this big shark scene. The Italians clearly didn't have any issues with animal cruelty back in the day, and that is sad, but very true, apparently. Cruel Jaws is so dumb if you haven't seen it. Another Italian film that is an unofficial Jaws 5. I love it. I don't think I have seen it, Cameron, but I'm gonna have to now. So now I'm adding to my summer list, and also I'm not gonna watch the shark movies in October, but maybe the doll movies in October and the shark movies like in August. That'll be a lot of fun. Making sure I didn't miss anything real quick. I just cannot believe they drugged that shark. I'm still like in awe by that, Katrina. I wanted to research that and forgot about it. So thank you for reminding me. I might even still research it further even after this. The next movie on my watch list, just in case you guys are curious, because I'd love to know what you guys are wanting to watch next personally, like what's on your watch list for like this week or this weekend. I am going to rewatch The Serpent and the Rainbow. It's a film directed by Wes Craven, and everyone talks about the more popular Wes Craven films, but very rarely do I hear people talk about The Serpent and the Rainbow. And I saw it for the very first time only 2 years ago. I know it's crazy to only have seen it then, but it is so good. So if you've not seen it, there's some talk about some cheese. The ending of the movie, there's this 20-minute segment of the movie that is just fantastic and super cheesy and super 80s, but also effective and fun and horrific in a way too. But yes, I love The Serpent and the Rainbow. Benjamin agrees with me. He said The Serpent and the Rainbow is a crazy movie. The reason I'm rewatching it, and my plan is to either do it tonight after I'm done, but most likely tomorrow night, because my private book club that I run on my Facebook channel, uh, we like read books together once a month. It's a very small group, and they don't really like horror, so we a lot of times we'll read nonfiction, and like next month they want to read and then they were none, which I do want to read. I'm excited about it, but at the same time I'm supposed to be reading slashers, and now I have to read a non-slasher book because my club is like, no slashers, we don't want slashers. So I'm like, okay, whatevs. Anyway, we read The Serpent and the Rainbow, the non-fiction book that the movie is based on. So I think it's a fascinating instance of, so we've got this horror movie directed by Wes Craven, which is a fictional movie, but it's based on a nonfiction book. I think that's so wild. And I found this great article that was just published a few days ago online about, what the author who went on this adventure, I think he's an ectobotanist. I can't remember his official title, but he studied plants and he was also an anthropologist. So maybe it's I don't know the formal word, but anyway, he went and traveled off to Haiti to try to discover this drug that the Haitians used to raise people from the dead. But really, what it did is, and this isn't giving anything away because it's in the movie, they're not really zombies. It's like a drug that kind of makes the system slow down and people appear dead. But also, the drug is kind of, it's not really stable and easy to control. So some people do actually die from the drug, I think. But anyway, the book was fascinating because this guy talks about his journey over there, talks about his search for the drug, that it was rumored as a zombie drug, that he wanted to discover, is it real? What's it made out of? Why do they use this drug? For what purpose? How are people chosen in terms of, why are certain people chosen to have the drug given to them where others aren't? So yes, it was very fascinating. I just finished the book last night, and it was actually pretty poetic for a nonfiction story. A lot of nonfiction books can be very dry. The Serpent and the Rainbow was not. Anyway, Wes Craven apparently loved this book, and he wanted to make it into a movie from what I've read and researched since finishing the book last night. And I am so excited to rewatch Serpent and the Rainbow and to kind of look at it through different eyes. But at the same time, I'm so surprised they made this into a movie, because the book is really about how the religion, the Haitian religion, has been painted a certain way by movies and film, and like The Serpent and the Rainbow does give some, like, I guess some depth to the religion, but at the same time it does fall into the same stereotypes. So like at the end of the movie, in this crazy 20-minute sequence, we have this like black sorcerer guy, or like this voodoo priest, and it's very stereotypical and very unlike anything documented in the book. So anyway, so there's some differences and some, you know, they took some liberties. Let's just say that. But anyway, I am so excited to rewatch The Serpent and the Rainbow because I fell in love with that movie from the first time I saw it. I was like, oh my god, it's so crazy. Oh, and good. I thought this might be the case, Cameron. So Cameron says, although I'm reading And Then There Were None, which is kind of a mystery type of book and an older classic, he says it can kind of pass as a slasher because there is murder afoot in the book. So I am glad to hear that, Cameron. I was wondering if it technically could pass. So since you said it could pass, I'm gonna say it's a slasher book. Let's count it. Let's just count it. So I'm staying within my theme. However, because I'm doing this whole Year of King thing, I do have two King books that are not slashers that I have to read. They're really more short stories. I have to read The Mist and 1408 are the two Kings I'm reading next month. So those won't be slashers, but hey, it'll still be fun. Daisy Remembers the Serpent and the Rainbow. Very underrated Carpenter film, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Benjamin says, My friend Chelsea got me a little toy panther spirit animal after I watched that movie. That's so cool and very sweet of your friend. Yes, ethnobotanist. That might be it, Benjamin. Thank you. I'm bad at stuff like that. I mean, there were so many big words in this nonfiction book. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank God I listened to it on audio instead of just reading it with my eyes. My whole brain would have exploded if I would have tried to pronounce it all in my head because there were just so many specific words having to do with the culture and the religion that like would have blown my mind and I wouldn't have been able to pronounce it even in my head. I don't know how you guys read over words you can't pronounce in your head, but a lot of times I'm like blah 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 blah. Like I don't even try. Ridiculous. Cameron says lots of murder in And Then There Were None, which is a book I'm going to read next month, it looks like. Picking them off one by one, I love it. One of my favorite books. That's great to know. I have read it, but I don't remember anything about it. So I'm going to reread it technically, although I think it's more like a first time read since I don't remember a thing. So I'm counting it kind of like a first time experience in a way. So I did say that this wouldn't be long, and I feel like it's already long. So I feel bad that you guys have been hanging this whole time, and I really appreciate it. But I want you guys to drop any thoughts about the movie before we start to wrap things up. Any other things you want to shout out about what you're looking forward to in terms of movies or books you're about to dig into, because I think we've got a lot of fun things on the horizon. And if you guys are joining with me, so this is technically a book club meeting, even though we're talking about a movie right now. And if you're a part of my book club and like to join in on the different reads we do every month, uh, sometimes we have one book, sometimes we have two books. Most of the time, it's actually two books, but you can choose to read one, the other, or both, or neither if you're not feeling it. But next month, we've got one book decided. I'm just going to double check, but we've got one book that seems to be in the lead for one of the polls I put out, and that would be Night Shoot by David Sodergren. So if you're into joining in on the book club reads, that book, yes, it's definitely in the lead. It's definitely going to be one of the picks. So we're definitely going to read Night Shoot by David Sodergren, which is a slasher type of book. It's about, do I have it right next to me? No. I'll put it with my slasher books in the other room. But it's like, this movie's being made at this like haunted seeming place and I think shit goes down. That's a very vague description of it and simplified, but you guys get the gist. It's a slasher type of book, so it kind of fits. Like slashers are sometimes basic, sometimes complex, but I'm very excited to dig into Night Shoot for sure. And so right now, if you guys want to have your voices heard, there is a poll up on my community tab for the second book that we're going to read as a club. So if you're not into Night Shoot, or if you're into Night Shoot, want to read an additional book with the club for the readathon, the slasher readathon, we've got a poll out right now, and the choices for the second book are Bone Saw by Patrick Lacey, which I've heard great things about from Cameron, who's in the chat right now, Brother by Anaya Albarn. I said that weird too. Just excuse my pronunciation. It's because I'm all messed up. It's been a day. But A Brother by Anaya Alborn, I heard that book is great. I really want to dig more into her work because I've not read anything by her, but I've heard a lot of great things, not only about Brother, but I know a lot of people are talking about that book. It's a novella called Palmetto about, I think, roaches, and I definitely want to read that book. I mean, I hate roaches in real life, but there's something about roaches in books that I kind of like for some reason. The Nest is one of my favorite horror books, and that's about killer roaches, and it's great. It's marvelous. It's a vintage book. It's such a joy. And finally, the last choice, which is one of Katrina Brown's favorite slasher books, Cirque Berserk by Jessica Guess. And so that's one of the choices as well. So if you guys want to vote, the poll is up right now, and that is to decide the second book that we'll read for June. So yes, vote if you want. I'm very excited about this. By the way, check out Katrina's channel if you have not already. As I said, Cirque Berserk's one of her favorites, so she's already read it, but check out her channel. It's great. She did a whole doll reading vlog where she read a whole bunch of doll books. So I feel like we've got the doll expert here. So definitely check out her channel. 100% for sure. All right, guys. I feel like I'm doing all this like hand movement stuff because of ASMR. It's like the other YouTube stuff that I'm addicted to besides BookTube. It's ASMR, and I'm like always doing hand stuff now, and I can't stop. It's very annoying. I must like handcuff my hands or something because I just move them so much. All right, guys. I'm trying to give a final rating for Dolls because I was torn between 4.5 stars and 5 stars out of 5. I don't know. Like, to me, I just think there's nothing to. It's a good casual movie. I do kind of limit 5 stars to my very favorites, and I wouldn't say that like I've seen Dolls enough to be a very favorite. I think I'm not at that level yet. I feel like I've got to see a movie at least 3 or 4 times for it to be a favorite, like an ultimate favorite. However, now I've seen it twice, so it could be on its way. So I guess technically, since it's not an ultimate yet, an ultimate favorite, I'll give it a 4.5 officially out of 5. That's my official rating. Oh, Caleb's here. How you doing, Caleb? Dolls is a great movie. Sorry, I barely got here. Well, you made it, and it's better late than never, and I appreciate you no matter when you join. Cameron's on the same wavelength as me. I'd give Dolls a 4.5 out of 5. Not my fave, but still so good. Totally on the same wavelength as you completely. That's exactly how I feel. And it's definitely worth watching for like horror fans. And I think it's a good movie to watch with people who are like on the fence about horror, if you know what I mean. Like you're with a group of people, you're looking for something to watch. They might not be super into horror. I feel like this is a movie you could put on and anybody could enjoy, anybody who's older and who could see like more violent things. But I just think the violence is so cartoonish in a way. I mean, it's good, but it's cartoonish overall. And I just think it's so that anybody could be like, yeah, this is fun. I'm okay with this. I'm not freaked out. Let's just enjoy it and have a good time. So I do think it's one of those movies, which is special because not every movie is like that. You can't just go show somebody The Hills Have Eyes remake and think everyone's gonna like it. That's just what popped into my mind. I don't know why I use that as an example, but that is like a freaking movie that gets to me for some reason. The remake of The Hills Have Eyes, that is like a bleak as hell movie, a movie that is off-putting, a movie that has triggering scenes in it and off-putting scenes. Yes, that movie, like if people ask me like what is one of the most disturbing movies, like it's a popular movie and it's not as extreme as some other movies, especially some more like indie horror movies and underrated horror movies, but for some reason I will always remember where I was the first time I ever saw The Hills Have Eyes, the remake. I I felt it in my soul when I watched it. I was so scared and affected at the time. I mean, we're talking when I was a teenager. So I was more affected by things back then. But that is definitely a movie you cannot just watch at a party. You cannot just throw that movie on with whoever you want. You got to be careful. So that's what I mean. Dolls, on the other hand, I just think it's kind of universal. Plagued by Visions is here. Hey, Juan, how you doing? Everyone, check out Juan's channel. He's got a great channel, and he's so freaking well spoken when it comes to horror. And this is what I was referring to when horror is such a great genre where you could dissect it and analyze it. Juan is somebody who's so good at doing that, who's really great at dissecting horror and analyzing it to a T and just having all these wonderful thoughts about things that I could never put into words. So yes, check out his channel 100% if you have somehow not already. And he says, I'd give Dolls a 3 out of 5, but I haven't seen it in a long time. It's fun cheese. It definitely is some fun cheese. Oh, and speaking of Anaya Alborn, which I was just talking about, Brother and Palmetto by her, Katrina says she has a doll book as well, and she says it's called I Call Upon Thee. I'm gonna have to add that to the list. I know you guys are used to it since a lot of you are book fans, and if you're not, you're a movie fan, and either a movie list or a book list, it doesn't matter. The list is ever growing for fans of both of those mediums. My movie list is insane. My book list is insane. At this point, I'm just like, I'm okay with keeping, adding to it. It's fine. I've realized that I will have a massive list forever. I will try to make little dents in it when I can, at least. Benjamin says, when I was a kid, I expected it to be a much more horrific movie than it actually is. I really like it though, in terms of dolls. I love this. So Juan says, my mom took me to see The Hills Have Eyes remake in theaters. Maybe that explains some things. Like Juan, if you guys didn't know his channel, he like talks a lot about disturbing books and like extreme books, but also like I think really intelligent books too, especially more so than me. I'm just like, oh, let's read some trash all the time. But Juan doesn't always read trash, unlike me. Like I think you read Watership Down recently, didn't you? Well, semi recently. Anyway, so that's what he means by maybe it explains some things, but oh my gosh, how'd your mom react to that movie? I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, like if she was in this theater with you, how she would have reacted. My mom could not handle that. She like gets scared at Home Alone. Like I'm not joking. When my dad and I would watch Home Alone when I was a kid, she would literally gasp out loud at the violence. She was like, "Oh, oh," and she like couldn't watch. She'd like put her hands like this and be like, "The violence." Like when people got hit in the head with bricks, she didn't like it. Suck brick, kid. Anyway, I don't know why. One says, I'm going to have to do a 3-hour video essay on dolls now. Well, I'm sure you would have dissected it much more if you do that than I have in this hour and 18-minute chat. I have gone all over the place in this chat, but I really appreciate everyone here in the comments just kind of going back and forth with me and talking about some shark movies, talking about special effects, talking about doll books. I feel like we covered so much and so much unrelated to dolls, but still stuff that connects back to dolls in a way. Again, don't forget Stuart Gordon. We mentioned his movies like Reanimator, but we didn't. I mean, I mentioned, but a lot of people here didn't mention Dagon, and that movie is crazy. If you like gory scenes, hold on to your butts because I don't mean to keep saying that quote from Jurassic Park, but seriously, there is a scene in Dagon that is just mind blowing. That freaked me out. I don't want to build it up too much and then you guys be disappointed, but I covered my eyes when I saw that part, and that was directed by Stuart Gordon, just like Dolls, is. Plague by Vision says he also loves trash, just like me. He says his mom loved the Hills Have Eyes remake. She loves horror movies. Well worth traumatizing her kid, she'd probably say. That's so cool. Your mom's awesome, it sounds like. I I just could not watch that with my mom. She'd be so scared. She'd be like, no. That's not how she sounds. She's more like Cajun. She's got like this accent. I can't do it, but my boyfriend Paul says I kind of sound like her sometimes and have an accent, which whatever, I guess. I mean, I know people have said that I sound like I have an accent, but it is what it is. I don't think it's like my mom's accent, which is crazy. And my grandma's, her mom, who I call Mama, or I used to call Mama, she definitely had an accent. I mean, she used to speak Cajun French before she even learned English, and so did my papa. So yeah, there's an accent there, but she's like, oh, I can't do the impersonation, but you get the gist. Cameron agrees with me about Dagon. It's crazy. I mean, it's insane. All right, guys, we're about to wrap things up. I really appreciate everyone who's been here. I mean, so many friends here, so many great channels represented in the comments too. Cameron, check out his channel and his Patreon. Plagued by Visions, he also has a Patreon, and as I already stated, a great channel. Katrina Brown, awesome freaking channel, who I just recently discovered, and I wish I would have discovered sooner. But friends are here too, like Daisy, who has a great Instagram. My great friend Benjamin, who I was just watching him play some piano on his channel earlier. It's not like it's just like a casual channel, but I loved his playing. I wish I could play an instrument. Benjamin, I watched your most recent video from like 2 weeks ago. I wish I could play anything. You did such a fantastic job. You're really talented. Melissa was here. Ashley was here earlier. So many wonderful people. I just want to thank you all so very much. Midnight Crypt Works was here, who is kind of new to me in the chat, so thank you so much. Becky England was here. I really just appreciate every single person and anybody who watched after the fact too. I don't know if I shut it out. Melissa was here. Hey, Internet. Eric here was here, which I think is a great screen name. All right, guys, I'm wrapping it up. I hope you have the most wonderful evening after this. You really just don't know the amount that it means to me that you guys spend your time with me. It means so very much. And I'm just trying to think if I have anything important to tell you before I sign off. Like I said, if you have not voted in the book club poll and you want to participate in the book club, make sure you go look at my community tab because that is up right now. There are 50 votes, but there's still time to decide a winner because it's like neck and neck. I think right now Cirque Berserk and Bonesaw are like very, very close in the votes right now. So if you've got a preference and you want one of those to be one of the reads, make sure you vote. Thank you all so much once again. You guys are just the best. And I'm not just saying that, I really do feel that way. I'm so happy to have found this community. Whether you have a booktube channel or you're just somebody who likes to watch booktube, it's like an awesome time. And of course, I love movie peeps too. So, any of you movie peeps, thank you so very much. David Lee Pedersen, thank you so much for watching and for the compliment. Really appreciate every single one of you. Bye, guys. Till next time. You know what you can do, right? I say it every time. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys. Thank you.